Well, thank you all for coming out and joining us. And I thank the library for offering us this space to meet in and this wonderful vibe board. Anyone wants to stick around afterwards, I'm going to be playing around with it for all what I can do. I'll probably be here all night. But and I'd like to thank Cherry for making the ice cream that will be served up later, and Melissa for joining us from her conference as well. Melissa is the director of the Pickestrel region, which we are a part of, and will be pivotal in getting this put together. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Who's in the back? We're going to go for about 30 minutes, just kind of what we're doing here, what we're trying to accomplish. We'll leave 30 minutes for question and answer, and then we're done in an hour. So everyone can get home, and we're not going to drag this on. Of course, we'll stick around to answer any questions and have conversations, but we want everyone to be able to leave within the hour. And all of our meetings will be this way so that you can plan to be here, put in your effort and time, and then you can move on. So thank you all for being here. This has been a pretty long process so far. I think we started, Annabelle and Melissa started talking about this at the beginning of last year, or beginning of this year, had the application in around March, and we found out around May, somewhere in that time frame. We all traveled to Austin for a sit down with the Texas Historical Commission. And so a little overview of the program, and some of you have heard this before, if you've been in any of the meetings on the board. But the Smithsonian has been working with small cities and municipalities and groups for about 36 years across the U.S. 3 years ago, Texas decided to jump in, and the Texas Historical Commission took on the process of finding locations. So this is the third year. Each year they pick 6 locations across Texas. And the Smithsonian has an exhibit that travels from each location. This year's exhibit is Spark. It's around innovation in your communities, and has several different things that they want you to highlight and that they've highlighted in their exhibit. So what it's meant to do is to allow communities to bring exhibits to their area and then highlight what is unique about their communities and their organizations that are in that area, but also to allow for training to the communities to put these events together, show them resources, and really make an effort to bring a big museum sort of effort to a local community, and leave that training behind for all of the organizations that are involved, so that when we want to continue on after this, we have those resources, we've made those connections within our region, and that sticks with us. So hopefully for us, when we've talked about this, when the 4 of us have talked about this, what we're hoping that this community is able to do is to look around, find our regional partners, look at the assets that we have, and spark some thought around what we can do to either improve those assets, bring different communities together, and understand how we are all, working together. And it doesn't just have to be museums or social organizations. We have a representative from the state park here, and we thank you for making the trip down. So we'll start to find those connections and figure out how we all work together to put this and make a successful program. So a couple of the resources that we'll have are going to be put together from the Texas Historical Commission. So when we went to Austin, we had a full day of training to go through what other communities have worked through in their planning, the efforts and the struggles, what their successes were. And really, this is about how much your community puts into it. So you have an exhibit, the whole exhibit will fit in an area probably from me to the fireplace. It does have some height requirements and requirements for the building that it will be in. But what really makes this program unique is what the community themselves put into this. So as I'm sure you've seen, we have looked at, so we toured several of the assets on the board with a couple of board members and the general manager and some of her staff, and we determined that Dickman Hall was where we wanted to first try to look to see if it was going to work for us. It meets the requirements for the exhibit. There are some things that need to be revamped, but we'll see if that is something that comes to fruition. Again, a lot of times these things, it's just like in your home, right? You're gonna have a Christmas party, you're having family come in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to get this project done, and that project done, and this project done, that I've been thinking about doing for the year. Get the dust bunnies from underneath the guest bed, and then you're ready to go and host people and do, have your celebration or party or whatever you're set up. So that's kind of what we're hoping happens here. Again, we've got some ideas around how we can use this 6 weeks. We already have a lot of built-in events, which was a really nice pick by Annabelle and Melissa when they were looking at times of when to host this. We already have Frontier Christmas that's during that time. The Arts Council already puts together their home tour during that time. So we have some things that are built in that we can highlight that are always here. So hopefully, once people understand that these things are some things that happen on a yearly basis, they continue to come and they spread the word. And one of the things that I'm most excited about there's a piece of this where you look at what do you want to leave behind. So I talked a little bit about the training and the connections that you make, the networking, promoting some of the things that are already going on in your county. But as we talk to different groups that are interested in participating in this and becoming partners, we're going to find things that we can help find resources for to put those projects that you've been dreaming about into action and leave those behind. So initially, when we were talking about having this meeting here, we sat down with the library. So we were talking to the library and they were asking us, what is this about? How is this going to go down? What can we contribute to this? Because they have to actually follow their procedure to become a partner of the MoMS committee to bring the Smithsonian to Kinney County. And so we worked through that. But one of the projects that they mentioned was digitizing their physical assets, their physical records of the county. And so that was a great start to the conversation because they have all of the newspapers, all of the records from births, deaths, bonds that have been taken now, marriage licenses, all of the things that go through the county in these big bound books. But if you're looking for something, you got to go through them one by one. And actually, a lot of their records are being destroyed because they don't have the staff to, when we went up to Austin, we were at the Briscoe Museum for the presentation, and they were actually kind enough to go through all of their archives and pull out everything related to Alamo Village, Bracketville, Fort Clark, Kinney County in general, and bring those records for us to see. Well, when we sat down, we had to clear the room of all of our drinks and all of the lunch that was in there, put on gloves, check them out. I mean, we're in a closed room with one entrance and one exit, and this lady was standing over us like, no one's leaving with anything from here. So we don't have that staff here in Kinney County, and we don't need it. But one of the things that has happened over time is that as people want to go through these things, it just, and by the nature of handling them, it destroys them. So those records are gone. There's some things that we're going to have to find, but if they were digitized, that would be something that would stay with Kinney County forever to be able to have a resource here. And it's amazing going through some of those records. We sat and went through some of them with them, and it's like, we don't really need any new ideas here. They've all been done. We just got to go back and find the ones that did work and start doing them again. But all those records are there and they're available to us. And so we haven't officially identified that as a leave behind, but it is an idea that's come out of one meeting. We've had one meeting, and there's so many other organizations and so many other resources that we need to look at and figure out what we're going to he was our lead behind as well. So that's kind of the after effect and the impact that this program can bring. So we'll pause just for a moment. Melissa, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, you pretty much covered it all. I'm excited to work with Fort Clark and like with Bill and Kinney to make this happen. I think it's going to be a great event, and I think it's going to be a great time with it in during the holiday season and during the showcase the community and Fort Clark for the beauty that they are. So I'm just super excited to be a part of this and to have it in our programs.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for joining us while you're at your conference. So we appreciate that. You want to add anything or there's several aspects that you discussed in the meeting and I think everyone.
Yeah, Chip Riggins. I'm really representing the Fort Clark Historical Society on the planning committee and very excited to have this opportunity to really share our heritage, the stories of our community and our region, both with ourselves, but also with folks from outside our region who are not aware of the richness of this area. This idea of heritage tourism is something that a lot of us, it comes naturally to us because we just like to be active, and when we're traveling, we like to learn about the places that we're in. But those places are not necessarily thoughtful, or nor is it easy to learn about that place when you go there. Sometimes you have to dig pretty hard to find out what's truly interesting about an area that you're visiting. This is a unique opportunity to really concentrate those stories and both share them with each other, which I think is going to be fun just by itself, regardless of who comes, but also to share it with folks that are not familiar with our area. I had the privilege of going to the museum on Main Street while we were on vacation on the Gulf Coast, and I started seeing the flyers in restaurants. It was at the state park that we stayed at. We were RVing and we stayed there, and they had one on their bulletin board. And I said, "What is this Smithsonian on Main Street?" So I started reading about it, and it was in their city hall. They had a new conference room, a little bit larger than this, but they had a new conference room that they were holding it in. Construction was still going on around this. You could sort of tell that they pushed up the completion of that one room, but you had to walk through the construction area to get to it. And what I was struck with was that the partners around the exhibit were a lot of tables of regional partners. And a lot of those tables were staffed because it was the weekend when we went. And so what I was struck with was the conversations that they were having between each other. This was the first time that a lot of them had been at tables next to each other, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know y'all did that," or "I'm glad to know what your hours are because people ask us about that." And a lot of that kind of information was being shared, but also the history was being shared. Our state and national parks have their own unique history here. A lot of that I find very fascinating because we share a lot of it here. I started looking at some of the WPA projects that we have on the fort and noticing the similarity between those projects and especially our state parks, but also some of our national parks. You'll start noticing that architecture from the 30s, when Roosevelt had his New Deal, it's very similar. It's the same work crews. In fact, we housed some of those work crews at the fort. So I think that's going to be exciting. It's going to be a wonderful time to network. The Historical Society has already written a letter of support for this because it really dovetails with our mission, which is preserving and sharing the stories, the unique stories and the history of this place. So I'm very excited about that. I'm looking forward to that. that process of drawing out, because each of you sitting here may know something about this community that most other people don't. And for me, I think the thing to keep it interesting, especially for our locals and for members of the Historical Society, is going to be to dig a little deeper for this special occasion, for this history sharing time, and try to draw out some of those stories and maybe tell them a little bit differently than we're used to telling them. And I really can't wait to see how that materializes and how we grow to understand each other better in that process of planning and of getting those stories together. So I thought the local exhibit, it drew my attention in as much as the Smithsonian's central exhibit. The Smithsonian central exhibit, as Travis mentioned, is helpful in that it kind of starts the process of developing these themes, which is going to be innovation, but it's going to be innovation in technology, innovation in heritage, innovation in the arts. And so the theme is going to really allow us to pull out whether I'm excited to see what we do in the arts. Those of you from here take this for granted, but those of us that are relatively new are always shocked how much music and art there is here for the rural place. And I think people will be very surprised when that theme comes out during this 6-week period. What we choose to highlight will be very impressive, very impressive. I'm looking forward to the technology. I'm a history buff. I like the Army history and just about everything that I like about really about the Gilded Age and the burst of technology that was happening when Fort Clark was established and then Brackettville grew up. To me, that's a really fascinating period when technology was being used on the frontier for the first time. We have, for instance, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but we have the first actual telegraph equipment that had a wire from Fort Clark to the Minger Hotel in San Antonio. So the actual equipment that was used to send those first messages back to San Antonio from out here is right there inside the door of the museum. And that's the kind of thing I hope we can pull out and put around the Smithsonian as an example of use of technology, the history here, and so I just see it as a wide open. How long do we have to brainstorm, and how many different ideas can you all really come up with? Because I'm sure, like I said, that y'all know things about the area, about the ranches, about the city of Brackettville, about the county of Kinney, and of course about the fort. We're also interested in having our other regional partners like the Whitehead Museum from Del Rio. We'll have our sister forts and all the partners that Melissa will bring who are members of her organization on Pecos Trail. And I can imagine that a lot of them will do a short program if they come this far. Hopefully they'll give us a short program about their facilities, about their museum, about their community, so that we can also learn from them during this time. So I'll stop with that, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the heritage tourism opportunity. Some of the exhibits may be as simple as a table with the brochures about the parks, for instance. Some of them might be a little bit more historical in that if people have collections and they want to bring a part of that collection so people can either be hands-on or visually see those artifacts and and sort of put it together. Then we'll have literal exhibits as well. I think we'll have plenty of things that will surprise people and will make the museum on Main Street sort of one of those memorable times that when you've been somewhere and you were surprised, you kind of like, wow, I didn't expect that. And it becomes sort of one of those childhood or one of those memories that is special. So I think this is going to be a wonderful grain of sand, if you will, that in our oyster we can make into a real pearl. So thank you.
So now we're talking about kind of how we're going to pull this together, and that it really matters as to the groups that come together and individuals that bring their efforts and their experiences and their stories. I thought maybe now would be a good time to go around the room and maybe everyone can say their name and if they represent a specific group or just as an individual, as a community supporter. So we can start to get some ideas of what's going on. So we'll do that now. And I hate to put you on the spot, but you're right there. So.
I'm Stephen Thomas. I'm the superintendent at Kicker Tavern State Park. And I know we would love to help out as best that we can. This is super exciting to actually be able to tie some stuff in here. Because we have a lot of history in the cave that ties to the fort as well. So looking forward to this.
And hopefully next year, by this time next year, we'll know a little bit more about what's maybe coming.
Yes. And we'll probably know a little bit more next week on that. So.
Pat Stephenson and I can't talk about this. My husband's got the Distinguished Service Cross. This means a lot to us. And therefore I want the Officers Club and the importance of that building, honoring these military guys. Because this was a cavalry fort and it needs to be put back to the importance of it. Sorry, it's been hard.
We can spark that initiative, and if this gives you a reason to get people in front of you to listen to that story and to listen as to why it's important, I think that we're already succeeding if we can do that.
I'm Dan Smith, live on the fort. I'm a builder, and I'm excited about this project.
Sylvia Riggins, supporter. And sitter. Holly's also very excited.
Did you want me?
Yes, you're up next.
Charlene Simmons, and I've been on the fort for 30 years. And my husband had us move here because he was retired, military, 30 years. And he fell in love with it. And we had to stay. I get emotional.
Sorry about that.
Sherry Dobbs said, I don't get emotional. I used to go swimming here in the 40s. We did it Spofford. So not many people live in Spofford. So, and I'm on board.
Thank you.
Gerald Hewley, supporter, and father of Travis, and grandfather of little one here.
I'm Beverly Huey, and I've been coming here since 1978. And I love the old buildings. I dreamed of wanting to own one of the old buildings, and now I own a couple of them. And, and I've been restoring the house that I live in. And really, anxious to show it off to our visitors and to put my house, open my house up for visitors whenever we have this function. I'll just have to move in the transit or something. Anyway, I'm really excited about showcasing.
I'm Leslie Jones, and as Charlotte mentioned, we're residents of the fort for 37 years, 8 years, I guess now. and my husband was retired Air Force. I just think, well, and I'm here to learn what's going on because America 250 is going to be celebrated all of next year with President Trump. And he has worked hand in hand with the Daughters of the American Revolution, of which I am a vice regent this year. And we will have, I know we will have a table with the DAR stuff, but if we can help, we will. The 250 for our chapter from Uvalde is on vacation. Well, not vacation. She's on Virginia. She'll leave on Tuesday to come back home. Deborah Milano. She is a retired Air Force. And so she's our chair for America 250 for our chapter. And we're going to get started on our display, which probably, I'm not sure, but it sounds like it will be the Hispanic on the American Revolution, because people do not realize they donated food, any kind of substance, and they can become a member of the PAO. So we can work hand in hand. I am curious, do you know what to do? Is it just a display of innovation that has come out? Or do they know what the display is going to be?
So the display is actually already on the road, correct, Melissa?
Not yet. It goes on the road. I think after the first of the year, they're meeting in Perville later this month to do their first meeting. Perville's going to be the first community to host it. And the meeting for them is later this month in Perville to bring the community together and give more information about it. So I think it goes on the road after the first of the year, I don't know. But a very nice gentleman from the fort sent me a video for YouTube that shows the exhibit. So you can actually Google or go on YouTube and do smart innovation Smithsonian exhibit, and you'll see what the exhibit features look like. There's, I believe, 8 panels that will have all the information as far as the Smithsonian exhibit goes. And then we can do what we want to with our partners inside. Bringing in the DAR, bringing in state parks, and other partners from our country.
So
I just wanted to know what the title of the display was going to be, so I could present it to our chapter at our meeting.
So if you will make sure that you sign up on this list, we will get out something that you can take to the meeting with you. There's a 192-page packet that we will go through, and that is just the first packet that they handed us when we showed up in Austin at 8 a.m. or whenever it was.
But that doesn't tell you exactly.
It will. It will tell you. Yeah, it'll tell you exactly how it goes through. And that's the reason for the stipulations on the building and the security and all that, because there are walkthrough pieces that you can hold, handheld pieces that go in the exhibit. So it's a really quite the production from the Smithsonian, which will be extremely interesting. But as Chip mentioned, what we do with it is really what's going to make this special. Jason?
Jason Long, I'm a director of the Fort Clark Board.
And I'm Augusta T.P. Pines, president of the Seminole Indian Scouts Association. And I'm really excited about this. And I'm ready to have volunteers, share stories, whatever. So we're all put my name down.
All right.
Rhonda Marquardt, as history teacher for 28 years and Franklin landowner since 1972.
Constance Kilgore, on the board. And I guess what I'm excited about this area, I've said at the board meeting recently, y'all don't remember what you have. the first time I saw Rackville and the fort, and I mean, I was astonished. I immediately was in love with this, and that's why I moved here. But it becomes common as you live it day to day. I'm Carol Hager. I am absolutely freaked out about making a nominee to fix the hall so that we can have a restaurant in my room. And I too came here and was so impressed by the place that I moved here. And I think if we can get 3,000 people in here, we'll sell them all a house.
I'm Terry Wolf, and I've driven past Fort Clark Springs for 55 years before I ever went in, and glad I did. So we moved here from Sanderson, and I have no special talent, but I can fill in wherever there's a need.
And he makes that's a lie.
You make good ice cream.
I'm Sharon Wolf, Ford's wife, and a Fort Clark board member, and I'm very excited. And very excited to try to get the board behind this project. It's a great project for the fort, a great project for Brackenville, and to put us on the map a little bit more, to get people to come here to know great what great history we have, and what the town is all about. So I'm very excited about that.
My name is Jeff Jackson, and I'm ashamed to say that I ran a big ad agency for 35 years. So if you need some help selling this to people, I might be able to help you too. I also have a lot of display experience and dozens of questions about the mechanics of this,
Okay.
which I'll ask on my way out the door.
Well, I wanted to point one thing out, and I was hoping maybe someone over here would have talked about it, but when we talk about innovation, we have we're standing in a room that signifies innovation to the point that we don't even, again, we're sitting here and we don't realize this. So we have a library sitting right here, and they took this building, they revamped it, and now it's a wonderful space. But if you think about the fort and the transition of where it was at, so military installation, private desk ranch that had all sorts of history in and of itself, and then it became a community. Well, that community, most of the people that live here today came through the RV park. They came from traveling in their RVs, and I know there's lots of wonderful stories about how people came here for one weekend, and Chip mentioned that he was traveling in his RV when he saw the MoMS exhibit because he was staying in the state park. The innovation of the property itself is something that we need to highlight, and I hope that we get to do that because we, as people who live here in Kinney County and on the fort now, are a part of that history and are part of that transition, and definitely not as big as some of the other eras, but we are the people that are here to keep it afloat. And I'm hoping that we spark the interest to do that and make sure that it's here for many more generations. So, do we have anything else that we need to add, or we can open up for questions?
Can I say something? I hope that this draws and gives back to the fort the dignity and respect it deserves. Because it's missing and we need that back.
That's the idea. I think we can get there.
And I want that.
Well, so that's a great transition into we are going to set up several committees. So the committees are going to be not only a part of the planning portion of it, but also things that are looking out for the community. So one that I think will be of interest to a lot of people will be the logistics committee, which will be looking at the facilities and how we use those. You know, we've talked about Dickman and having the main exhibit in Dickman, but we do want there to be other opportunities to host programs. You know, the Historical Society has several buildings as well, and we hope to be able to have programs in those buildings to highlight them. And then, you know, we have the theater, and there's, you know, Alamo Village, but Alamo Village, you know, we know that it's not in a state where you can tour it, but we can bring that information to this room. We can bring it to the theater. We can highlight these places, and a lot of these places just need a little bit of work that we can band together to do. And I know that people do that now, but it's hard to motivate the it seems like I was the same basis doing these things, but once we motivate people knowing that there's an end goal for us to work towards, maybe we can get some more people and stretch that volunteer pool out. So I'm excited to see that happen, so that we can get the fort back into the condition that it deserves to be kept in, and any of the other assets that are in Kinney County. I hope that we can work with the Seminole Scouts on their facilities. We'd love to have an opportunity to have a program there. Depends, on what y'all are willing to help us do, but I know you got a wonderful kitchen, a wonderful space for presentations. So I think that there's an opportunity there as well. So it's not just centric on the fort will be the home base, but much like the way that Brackettville grew when the fort was there, we hope that the impact was left on both communities and in the county at large. So with that, we'll open up to questions. We do have a sign-up sheet, so please, if you would like to leave your information, email preferably, we'll add you to the list. We won't spam you. We're not going to be just constantly emailing you things. I will tell you, if you have interest in being on the finance committee, all of our meetings will be here because I'm going to get to use this big whiteboard, and that's where it'll be. But otherwise, I'll be here by myself. Let's go. So, question? I guess you're the one with the 35. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Well, one of the things that, one question at the last meeting or the board meeting, in the boardroom, I asked how many, were residents of, and had been to things in Dickman Hall. And a lot of people raised their hands. I want them, every one of them, give up for some dollars. To improve it. If they enjoyed themselves years ago, they know what it's for. And I don't care how small they were there. It's worth us getting them up. Is there the list of people have
So then we will work with
the right? Well, I was wanting to know if there's a list of the members that were at that meeting that we could have.
probably not that meeting, but I bet if I go back to the video, we can between a few of us, we could find all the people that were there. And I thought
There were a lot of people. I don't get out as much as I just was Charlene and I are. So
There was a sign-up sheet.
I know, that's what I was wondering, if we could get hold of the sign-up sheet to be able to go one-on-one on getting some of those people.
yes, and we will definitely take that to the finance committee, and we'll see how we can work on funding, in that aspect.
Yeah, also, I have Kerrville, Brackettville, Alpine, Taylor, and what were the other two places?
Urban, Taylor, Atlanta, Fort Worth, Alpine, and Taylor. Did I say?
So, Atlanta,
Oh, Atlanta. Okay.
is that 6?
And what was the last one she said?
Alpine and Taylor.
Kerrville, Brackettville, Alpine, Taylor, Atlanta.
And I have to go geographically. I'm sorry. Atlanta, Taylor,
Snyder.
Snyder.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I have to go. I was gonna get taken.
No, thank you for coming. Hey, any other questions?
You mentioned the DAR, and I mentioned to the board when I talked about a couple of us are members of the Los Morris Lodge, 444, the Masonic Lodge here in town. We're celebrating our 150th next year. So that lodge has existed here And I think, that's a wonderful opportunity. If you're a member of other organizations, or if you can help us think about who's not here, but may have some historical um, perspective to bring. I think Museum on Main Street is going to be a great time for us to talk about the history of the lodge and its contributions to this area. So we're planning on doing that. And I was excited to hear about the idea of one of our leave behinds, and we can have multiple. One of the leave behinds that our lodge needs is like the library. We need to digitize our records. They're all handwritten, but they go back to 1876. So we're anxious to get on board with that. One of the other leave behinds that a lot of communities have done was we call it a walking tour, where somehow using the internet and your cell phone, you can walk around and basically have your walk narrated with the history of Brackettville or Kinney County or the region. So a lot of Museum on Main Street's leave behinds have focused on that kind of tour that then was available to visitors here. So if they asked what was this building, it was easy to kind of get the answer and to enjoy it a little bit more than just seeing its old buildings, but knowing what happened there is a lot more interesting.
And hopefully the county historical commission will want to help out with that. So,
The other thing that I think of that's really needed here on this kind of endeavor is the history of the ranches in Kinney County, because that's changing rapidly. And it's some really interesting history about it. I just talked to Rhonda, who's sitting over here, about it, and she tells me that Becky Moore has done a lot of research on that. So I'll contact Becky and see what she has.
She was gonna be here, but, and they actually walk in the door, but she had, maps.
one of the books that was brought out when we were talking about digitizing was the county records of the brands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Becky also has brands, yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I mean, all of these things are possible. We were digging through some stuff earlier, and they had brought out the newspapers from Kinney County, which we found that there were several that I was unaware of. But we'll be at some point trying to look for all the old bugles that we can digitize those records from the lodge. I'm sure that there are other organizations that have sort of things that can be left behind that will help us look and look for our history and be able to tell that history when we're starting to have ideas and try and plan new things.
I must let you know, I was president of the Lutheran Church congregation at the time that we had this disband. I offered our records to this library, and they refused them at the time. I had to go there also at Uvalde. They welcomed with great arms. So we need to keep what's in Brackettville in Kinney County,
Well, that's great information, because I think one of the struggle here is space and funding, and that was one of the things. Right now, all these county records that they have, I mean, they have these beautiful books. I mean, that weigh 30 pounds when you try and bring them out, but they don't have a place. They don't have the bookshelves strong enough to support them. So they have to kind of break them up and carry them around. And any of that history that we can bring back in a digital form would be wonderful.
And there needs to be a search done of the Uvalde Public Library, and I think the Virginia Davis has archives there. And she has quite a bit of books on Kinney County, and I don't know what else. So I think, and I will volunteer to go talk to her.
That would be wonderful.
And we have a lot of information that, we're to share.
Awesome. Yes, I think that would be wonderful. And then the idea would be to be able to have it so that you can have it at your own location, but then also add it to the county record at the courthouse as well. So it's not just that it's going to benefit the library. We want to benefit your organization as well and make sure that it's there so that y'all can use it in any of your presentations or displays when you have your events throughout the year. Any other questions?
I was gonna ask, when this project starts, will there be like advertisement, through the community, like signs and different things like that?
Yes, so we've got some ideas. There are some resources available around that. We'll start to put that plan together. We don't want to limit ourselves to just the community here. I mean, if you look at kind of where we're at from hub and spoke kind of aspect, I mean, we have got Uvalde, Eagle Pass, and then Del Rio as well. But I mean, even just the amount of people that travel from the east of side of Texas to the west side of Texas, and they skip this area simply because it's faster to go down I-10. It won't take much to bring them just a little bit south, and it's been successful throughout the years. When they were still running Alamo Village, and there were billboards between here and Houston. There were Alamo Village and Fort Clark. That was a major draw for us, and I think that we can replicate that in some form or fashion. There are resources available depending on how we put this organization together. The organizations that come to us with their entity structure, there will be resources that we can find to put together a marketing program to really highlight what's going on. The other thing about that is that we will be represented at all of the other locations that this exhibit is traveling through as well. So, and I think if you look at that list, we've got there's a close second in Taylor. They've done some really cool things from an innovation standpoint in their schoolhouse. You can check that out if you're not aware of the project that I'm talking about. And I don't even know that that's a part of their exhibit or will be, but we kind of have the gem here. If you look at all the buildings between the county and the port and the ability to show those things off, I think we're really going to stand out when we start to showcase what's actually here in Kinney County.
I don't think a lot of people are aware of how many historical markers are in Kinney County.
Yes. Now this is kind of one of those funny math things that we have more historical markers per capita than any other county in the state. Now that may be because we don't have as many people, or if we have a lot of markers. But the math is the math, and that's the stat. So that's where we sit. Anything else? Okay, well, there's food there in the back. I think there's some ice cream coming. So feel free to stick around. I'll be messing with this thing. And we're happy to stick around and have conversations. But thank you all for coming. It's really important to see everyone come out, and appreciate you taking the time on Sunday evening. And thank you. We're so excited. Melissa, thank you for joining us. And Adam, thank you for filming. We appreciate it.
We're sorry, Melissa, you can't have this good ice cream.
I'm so sorry too.
Well, the good thing is, Melissa,
Y'all's gonna be fun. I'll be there next week.
yes, Melissa will be here next week, so we'll say something for her. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.